Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and in today's video I want to discuss with you guys 5 features that I think could definitely benefit to Battle for Azeroth. Personally, I have been enjoying Battle for Azeroth. I think it's because my class is so good at PvE and Mythic Plus dungeons, so it's very easy for me to enjoy a majority of the content. I'm also partially invested into the Saurfang story, the Sylvanas, and the story of Battle for Azeroth. I really do want to see how it comes down to the end. And the patch 8.2 changes the Blizzard has added into the game look very promising. The inclusion of allied races into Battle for Azeroth gives me so much more to work towards to, as I'm still working on unlocking the Alliance allied races, like the Dark Iron Dwarves as well as the famed Cold Tyrants. But there's definitely aspects to the game that could be improved on, and in this video I want to touch on 5 that I think would definitely benefit the game. Number 1, maybe some sort of a mage tower-like experience to be brought back into Battle for Azeroth. I know that we have Brawlers Guild, and I haven't really got to sink my teeth into it quite yet. Back in Legion, I wasn't even interested in Brawlers Guild to begin with. The idea that a single-player content might be really exciting in an MMORPG was kinda not really up my alley until I tried the Mage Tower challenge. That challenge really kicks your ass. It's a Dark Souls-like experience, at least at first with the gear that we had at the time, that really punished you for making mistakes and forced classes to play perfectly in some cases just to get through the challenge. You had different versions for, let's say, classes that are great at cleave AoE with Agatha, maybe classes with great mobility with Xylem, and much more. All these challenges challenging to every class on different aspects. Of course, some classes did have it easier, others had it much harder, and for me, to this day, I could never complete the healer challenge on any one of the healer classes that I have back in Legion. The challenge was awesome because not only did it reward you with the fact that you beat the challenge, you're really good at your class, but it also rewarded you with an artifact weapon skin, something you could flaunt to other players, something that only you at the time had that nobody else could get if they weren't good enough, if they didn't understand their class, if they didn't put in the time and the effort into the challenge, if they didn't learn the fights. So it was something that had a little bit of level of prestige, which is something I definitely appreciate. I think it'll be cool to add something like this back into BFA, as so many people loved it, to put maybe some sort of a special collectible behind it that nobody else can get unless they've done a challenge. Maybe a specific weapon for your class, like an incredibly awesome looking assassin daggers or even assassin like swords. Maybe even a whole transmog set just for your class, since we have been a little bit light on raid tiers per class within raids. And of course they can do like they did in Legion. They don't need to make a challenge for every single spec, although if they did, I wouldn't say no. They could do one for any classes that are good at AoE, they'll have an AoE challenge. Any classes that are great at mobility, they'll have a mobility challenge, and on and on and on. It is something you could do at your own time, especially for players that don't have a guild or group of friends that they can run with. It is something that someone can work towards a long-term goal all by themselves. I had a lot of fond memories with this challenge. I thought it was awesome at the very beginning. I love the prestige behind it, and I think something like this to be added into BFA, I definitely would sink a lot of time doing the challenges until I can finally complete them just right. Next on the list is gonna be, and it's an obvious one, the PvP vendors. How have we not added a PvP vendor into the game right now? When you do islands, you get an island vendor where you can spend the doubloons to buy pieces of gear. You could do islands for randomized rewards, or you could just simply buy specific certain rewards from a vendor. When you do Mythic Plus dungeons, you get, of course, gear from completing the dungeon, gear from the Mythic Plus chest at the end of the week, but the chest also rewards you with Titan Residium, or other players call it chalk. You can take that chalk to buy yourself an Azerite gear, either a randomized piece of head, shoulders, or chest, or save enough for a specific piece to take the RNG out of the game. You do war fronts, you don't like the fact that you get an RNG rewards left and right, you can just go buy certain rewards with currency. Although you're not going to buy gear from there, but you can buy things like mounts, you can buy a ring, you can buy XP leveling potions, you can invest into more pieces of heirlooms to give to your characters as you level brand new allied races. So it feels like with every piece of content so far that we mentioned, Mythic Plus, Islands, as well as Warfronts, there is a way to get some sort of currency so you can eventually buy the reward you want. In PvP, however, we don't have that system. We have a Mythic Plus chest-like system at the end of PvP week, where at the end of the week, once you cap out Conquest, you'll get a randomized PvP piece of gear with some AP on the side. every single week for Cap and Conquest, you'll get a piece of gear with a fairly low item level of only 385, where in raids and dungeons you're getting like 400 baseline at least. So there's no way to guarantee a piece of gear that's at least a decent quality. And the only way to get gear outside of your weekly caps for Conquest is to do arenas and RBGs and normal battlegrounds and hope that something good drops, and it's all randomized if it drops or not. But players have asked, what if we could take Conquest points that we get every single week and treat it like the Residium, like we do with Mythic Plus Dungeons? Maybe let us buy piece of gear you want. Maybe we want a 400 piece of gear for boots. Maybe we want 415, and the 415 can cost a little bit more. I feel like some kind of system could be set up in the future of the game, and I think it'll be very healthy for the future state, especially in PvP, that they're adding trinkets that are almost necessary in order to compete within player versus player combat. Number 3 is some sort of a permanent character progression, and this one really is going to touch on the Azeroth gear in BFA. Don't get me wrong, there's parts of Azeroth gear that I do like. I like the customizability of different traits. I kind of like the fact that some people, let's say you get a brand new piece of gear and it's an upgrade on item level, but it offers you some choices between traits but not too much, forcing you to change some playstyles to your character. As long as the playstyle changes are not in a bad direction, I kind of like the fact that I can play my Outlaw Rogue one week one way, and the next week I change my playstyle and I use a couple different talents, and now I'm playing a slightly altered playstyle. I think it keeps things fresh and can actually be somewhat fun and exciting. But what I don't like about the Azeroth gear is kind of how it feels like a 2 steps forward, then 1 step back, then 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward. It doesn't feel like there's a permanent, continuous progression, because it all relies on your necklace. Let's say you get your necklace up to a level 40, so now you can unlock all the different rings and even that 5 item level upgrade in 385 pieces. So now 385s are actually 390s for you. Then you get yourself a piece of 400 gear, and because it is a higher item level upgrade, even if it has exact same traits, now you have to grind your necklace so you can unlock all those different small little bonuses for that piece of gear. So it feels like the higher item level you go, the less you actually can use of that gear. That's why I feel like it feels like a 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. Just doesn't really, it shuffles back and forth, and it doesn't feel like there's a constant progression for your character. This is far more apparent when you have alts, because I'm not going to manage all my alts with the necklace. I don't have the time to run every single world quest to get me all the AP. Back in Legion, they had an awesome system of AP. Not everybody liked that system, but it was a progression. It had a vanilla-like talent system for it, where you unlock all those different traits for your weapon, and eventually there was an endgame progression to that weapon unlock. You do eventually unlock every single trait, but it was a good progression that showed you that there was an endgame goal to all of this. You were working towards something at the very end, and it was linear forward progression rather than a couple steps forward, couple steps back. And I do know that in 8.2 they are adding more updates to the necklace system to give a little bit more of that forward progression. I am very excited and I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how that system works out in the future in 8.2. I'll be sure to cover it on the channel. Fourth, I feel like we should have had some sort of a max level zone. And the best example I have from it is going to be again from Legion. Remember how Suramar was that zone that you eventually got to venture in once you hit max level. Once you hit max level in BFA, you not really have any new places to explore. You get to explore the opposite factions zones. You get to, if you're Alliance, get to go to Zuldazar. You'll get to go to Vol'dun and the swamps of Nazmir. As a Horde, you get to check out Tiragard and the piratey theme for it, Stormsong and the beautiful green hills, as well as the cursed Drustvar. But none of them really give me the same feeling that Suramar did back in Legion. Once you get to max level, you being max level character, you get to unlock this extra area for you to do stuff in. World quests as well as story stuff. In a sense, it was an end game area that felt like, wow, you finally made it. You're max level, now you get to access this extra piece of content just for getting max level. I like that because it feels like there's some sort of, again, progression for your character, and it's part of the end game content. Suramar, on top of it, was a beautiful place. It was awesome, epic, there was so much to do, and the storyline with the Nightborn, the raid that unlocked, as well as dungeons, I mean, it had everything you needed. The city on one hand was purple, it had very much night elfy architecture to it, it was all very posh and I guess expensive looking, but you also had the outskirts of the city, the dumps where the wretched lived, the ruins of what used to be their city. I loved the environment, I loved the zones, it was so great to look at but also awesome to explore. Maybe they'll add a zone in the future very similar to how eventually they added the Broken Isles, an extra zone for us to discover, and it seems like that's exactly what they're doing with Nazjatar. It'll be awesome to discover Nazjatar and maybe it'll give me that same feel, but that itch of going to the special area. I mean, you kind of start out as a horde player in Dalaran, and when you get to max level, you end in Dalaran. When you start out as an alliance in Borealis, you simply end in Borealis. You don't have this new area to explore, so it feels like it was something is missing. Finally, I feel like in Battle for Azeroth, we need to have a massive all-out battle. I don't really know exactly what it would look like, I don't really know where it would be done, but I feel like we need to put in the battle into Battle for Azeroth. Last time we had some sort of a massive event that made emotions run all over the place was the burning of Teldrassil when Sylvanas attacked the Night Elves. I remember the community feedback, people were angry, people were upset, people were shocked by it, people were confused by the story elements of it, but I love that storyline for it. I love the story, what Battle for Azeroth tries to do is to get emotions out of players. The Saurfang story spawned from the in-game events of burning of Teldrassil, which is what led to the destruction of Lordaeron and the epic clash of Alliance and Horde that I think I really want to see more of. I just feel like we need a really epic battle. And I'm not talking about Warfronts. I feel like Warfronts are not enough. They're a decent piece of content and they are going to be adding heroic Warfronts, which I think could have potential to them, but we need a battle for Lordaeron where it's players versus players involved. Maybe some sort of a battle that allows Alliance or Horde to take certain areas of the old World of Warcraft. Maybe something where players from Alliance and Horde are called on to join, whether they want to fight other players and player versus player. Maybe even give profession players an ability to use their professions to help advance their side of the faction in the war effort. Maybe some players could use PvE content, like slay certain bosses and certain rares around the area and bring certain loot back to the base to turn in, again, to advance the progress, and it will be Alliance and Horde really trying to fight for the zone, and once one faction takes that zone, they could add a bunch of world quests, very similar to how they do Warfronts, but take away that player versus NPC interaction and kind of like, you know, one faction gets to control it while the other gets to sit on their hands and wait until it's their turn to play in the playground. Now, I don't know how hard it is to make something like this. Maybe developmental process for it is really difficult. And I will admit, I have zero experience in stuff like this personally. But I feel like we do need more big battles in Battle for Azeroth, and we need to be having them all over Azeroth. Maybe Blizzard has some like this already cooked up in the future, but I feel like more epic battles to really raise the stakes is something that could definitely help. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts about my 5 ideas in the comments below. Hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.